must be.
Oh my goodness.
Who is she?
The Lady Grantham I first went to work for.
Granny!
Why did you invite?
Since Downton Abbey has always been set in the early 20th century, it actually makes a lot of sense for the story to wrap up around the same time that era ends. The series kicked off with the aftermath of the Titanic and soon dived into the events of World War I, so it would feel full circle to bring everything to a close just as World War II is about to begin. That would definitely give it a strong and historically meaningful bookend. So let's dive into everything we know about how the historical events in Downton Abbey 3 shaped the new plot. There's still a bunch of storylines that could be explored after A New Era, even though that film did have some emotional goodbyes, most notably to Maggie Smith's iconic Lady Violet. Her character's passing felt like the closing of a big chapter, but the Crawley family is far from finished. Tom Branson just married Lucy, and they welcomed a new baby, so there's a fresh generation being introduced. That adds some warmth and a sense of continuation, even in the midst of change. And then you've got Thomas Barrow, who stepped down from his role as the butler. That's a pretty big shift in the downstairs dynamics. Because of that, Mr. Carson had to come out of retirement to help train Andy Parker to step into Barrow's shoes. It's a nice callback to the show's roots, where mentorship and tradition were such big themes. Even though some characters are stepping aside, the legacy of how things are run at Downton lives on. What's really intriguing, though, is the potential backdrop for this final chapter. Setting the last movie in the 1930s gives the story a rich and complicated historical context. The world was going through some serious economic struggles during that time, and the tensions that eventually led to World War II were rising fast. Since Downton Abbey started with World War I, bringing the franchise full circle by ending with the lead-up to World War II seems like the perfect historical symmetry. It would give the story real weight and a powerful sense of closure. Even though Maggie Smith won't be returning, her story got a pretty definitive ending in A New Era. A lot of the original cast is already confirmed to come back for the grand finale. That includes fan favorites like Hugh Bonneville as Robert Grantham, Elizabeth McGovern as Cora, and Imelda Staunton as Lady Bagshaw. Having them all back makes this last film feel like a proper reunion. Since this is being pitched as the true final chapter, it wouldn't feel complete without the core group. One surprise that's getting fans excited is the return of Paul Giamatti as Cora's brother, Harold Levinson. He only appeared briefly in the series before, but his character added some fun energy, and bringing him back adds something new without straying too far from what viewers love. His more relaxed, free-spirited personality should shake things up in an otherwise fairly traditional household. There's also hope that some other familiar faces might pop in again. Even though Matthew Goode couldn't return as Mary's husband, Henry Talbot, for A New Era, there's still a chance he could show up in this last film. Fans are also holding out hope for Lily James to return as Lady Rose. Her absence has been noticed, and now would be a great time for her to come back, especially with this being the big send-off. Of course, not everything about the grand finale is known just yet. The plot is still under wraps, but we do have a release date, September 12th, 2025. That's over a year after filming wrapped in August 2024, and while no specific reason has been given for the delay, it's not entirely unusual. Interestingly, the first Downton Abbey movie also released in September, while A New Era came out in May. So it looks like they're going back to their fall release strategy. Maybe because that time of year tends to work better for period dramas looking to make a splash at the box office or during award season. If Downton Abbey 3 wants to feel timely and emotionally rich, using the backdrop of the Great Depression could be a really compelling way to go. The show has always been good at blending personal drama with major historical events, and the Depression offers a bunch of interesting directions they could take. It's not just about people losing money. It was a period where everything was upended, from the global economy to how people viewed class, wealth, and survival. Because the Crawleys are part of the British aristocracy, the financial challenges of the time could really shake up their world. Even though the Great Depression technically began in the US with the stock market crash of 1929, its ripple effects hit the UK hard too. Unemployment soared, trade slowed down and a lot of industry suffered. So it makes sense that the Crawleys might find themselves needing to make difficult decisions to keep the estate afloat. Maybe they have to lay off a bunch of staff or lease part of Downton Abbey to foreign investors just to survive. That would create tension between characters like Lady Mary, who wants to modernize, and others like Carson, who cling to tradition. But the Depression wasn't only about financial losses, it was also a cultural and emotional turning point. People were losing their homes, their jobs, and in many cases, their sense of identity. That's where the downstairs characters could come in. Imagine someone like Daisy, who worked her way up from kitchen maid, suddenly fearing that all the progress could vanish overnight. Or Thomas, who might feel even more insecure about his position and future. It would be a powerful way to show how economic hardship affected everyone, not just the elite. Although Britain had been in a bit of a slump even before 1929, the global crash just made things worse. The Roaring '20s had brought about rapid growth, speculation, and new tech, but that came with a lot of risks, especially for countries like the US that were giving out loans left and right. Once the US started falling apart, countries like Germany and the UK felt the aftershocks. So Downton Abbey 3 could use this to touch on global connections too. Maybe a character invested in American business takes a big hit, or a visitor from Germany foreshadows the political unrest brewing in Europe. There's also something symbolic about the Depression. It came after this glittering, jazz-filled period of excess and optimism, the same kind of vibe Downton ended with in the last film. Showing how quickly things can change would raise the emotional stakes. The Crawleys might go from throwing lavish dinners to struggling with what to cut from their budget. And it wouldn't just be about money, it would be about identity. What does it mean to be an earl or a lady when you can't afford to maintain your estate? So while the Great Depression was an economic disaster, it was also a moment of transformation. It could be the perfect lens through which to explore the next chapter of Downton Abbey. The show has always been about change, whether it's World War I, the Spanish flu, or women gaining more freedom. This time, it could look at how a global financial collapse forces the characters to confront uncomfortable truths about wealth, privilege, and resilience. And who knows, maybe it also gives space for unlikely heroes to shine. Someone like Tom Branson, with his more working-class roots, might have better ideas for adapting to the times. Or maybe Edith, with her career in publishing, ends up helping support the family. Even though things would be tough, it opens the door to fresh dynamics, new relationships, and hard but meaningful choices. At the end of the day, using the Great Depression in Downton Abbey 3 isn't just about keeping things historically accurate. It actually opens up a bunch of great story possibilities. It pushes the characters out of their usual comfort zones while still staying true to the real events of the time. Downton Abbey, the grand finale, looks like it's shaping up to be a heartfelt, nostalgic, and satisfying way to wrap up the Crawley family saga. With most of the original cast returning, some new faces joining in, and the world around them changing once again, there's a real chance to give everyone a meaningful send-off. It's not just about saying goodbye. It's about celebrating the entire journey that these characters and the audience have been on through all the ups and downs of history together. And that's that for today's video. Please like the video, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with your family and friends. Thanks for watching today, and we will see you in our next video.